Hey, welcome back everybody. This is my episode 3 of my Clockwork Empires playthrough. We're currently on revision 49. It's actually been hotfixed up to 49A for stability reasons. So the hotfix came in, I don't know, like yesterday. It's not the biome patch I was hoping for. And ordinarily I would not update, I would not apply an experimental build to a game in progress, but this was a hotfix for stability reasons. So as you can see, we're up to 49A. Hopefully it won't be crashy. So we're just going to continue on with the colony in progress as it was, as we started with the previous episode. As you'll recall, I added a couple of commenter names as work crew overseers. So we have Jesse Allen. Who else do we have there? We have Johan Berkovic, who's mark my words, he'll be a man to watch. And we also had Brand Griff as the head of our military. Oh, got a new overseer. Drusilla Gaslug, I guess. Now, also, I had a request for another name, so colonist by the name of Hydunia. So, our first available female overseer here, Iolantha Steelsauter, will now become Hydunia Steelsauter. There we go. Haven't assigned her to anything yet, but, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens to them. So, if we take a look at the status of the colony, I have a wheat field here, or a maize field I should say, but I haven't assigned any crew to work it. So what I can do, I'm going to look at the attributes of my overseers and see who might be best as a farmer. And by best I mean has the best attributes and desires that contribute to being a farmer. Basically, if their attributes and their desires align well with the thing they do all the time, hopefully that means they will tend to be happy, which in turn means fewer strikes and labor disruptions and fist fights and slap fights with the other colonists, all of which can happen. Now Jesse Allen is he's assigned to the carpentry, as I recall, and Ronia Thomp and Brand Griff are assigned to the kitchen and the barracks, respectively. As we can see, in the work crew menu, when a crew is assigned to a given workshop, they'll actually have this little icon with you can use to zoom in to see their workplace and see how things are going. Anyway, we can look at the colonists who do not have workplace icons because they have not been assigned to a specific workplace. We'll take a look at Hydunia, for instance. Easily influenced, scholarly, wants to see a fish person. I'm just going to scroll through these quickly. Pioneering spirit is good for naturalists, but surprisingly not for farmers. Johan, not assigned to anything currently, nothing particular. We've got a lot of doomed overseers. Birdie Rivet Cotters, Bedeviled Growers. Oh, Birdie would make a good farm overseer because one of her desires is specifically to be a farmer. So that's who is going to farm up our corn for us. Now I'm going to take away Mildred's worker here and assign you to Birdie, just so we can get the corn up and running faster. And I'll unpause the game. Oh, there's a dodo. You're going to get him, Brand Griff? Here. Hunt this guy. Are my work crews? Oh. Now is not the time for a nap. There's lunch right outside your window. Well, I guess we've got plenty of meat for now. Ooh, steak. Alright, what do I need? So, given that our work crew, the crew currently assigned to farm maize, Birdie Rivet Cotter. Now there's only 2 of them, and each of these laborers can contribute approximately 1 or 2 labor a day, I believe. So it's going to take them... That can't be right. Well, we'll see. But each laborer, so counting the overseer and the worker, will contribute a certain amount of labor toward a field. In the initial cost of starting up a new field is, of course, you have to till it. Once it's tilled, you never need to till it again, and then it begins accepting labor toward harvest. And once this field has absorbed 100 harvest labor, it will then output, in this case, 16 bushels of maize. Unless my estimation is way off, at 2 labor a day, then we're not going to see corn for like 2 months, which means my numbers must be completely off. We'll just see. I would expect to see corn in about 3 days, which means probably contribute a few labor per worker. And obviously the more laborers I can assign to the farm, the faster those different tiers of labor input can be fulfilled. Right, how are we doing for commodities? We're completely out of lumber. No, we're not. Got a little bit of lumber and planks, but we do need more stone. So, mine these surface nodes. I do have aurochs bones everywhere, and they're kind of ugly, so I'm actually going to tell my colonists to forage these as well. So bones can be foraged and collected into baskets of bones. They don't currently serve any purpose. I believe the intention of the developers is to let you use baskets of bones for, I believe, fertilizer. But the recipe does not currently exist in the chemistry works. But the resource is there when they eventually plug that functionality in. Can't remember what I set the kitchen to do. Well, it's currently trying to maintain a level of 10 basic food at all times. Actually, food situation is going to be pretty dire in a second because, well, okay, we've still got a fair amount of raw steak, and each colonist attempts to eat only one thing a day. So that's at least 1 day of food. Okay, yes, we definitely need food. Fortunately, we have a giant berry patch here, and also, see these black cup fungus? They'll live off the land for a little bit while our maize production gears up. Going to forage these. There we go. Alright, what's the next thing we need? So we've got a functioning, well, the barracks is currently functioning as a place where we store all our beds. It would be nice for everyone to have beds, actually. I've only got 3 cots and 2 middle-class beds, so maybe I'll queue up a few more of those. Carpentry isn't currently producing anything, but it is just keeping up production of planks, which we need for practically everything. Now I've got 14 colonists, so 5 beds is not nearly adequate. Let's say 5 more cots for now. Now that was a single order and not a standing order. I'm going to jam them into here as best I can. Might only be room for maybe 3 more beds. Don't want to block the door. And 2 immigrants. Oh, good. 2 beds, 3 beds. So I'm probably going to need to build another building to hold more beds, or I start jamming them in like the corners of the kitchen and the carpentry. Just mental reminder, new immigrants are not automatically assigned. So one of the new immigrants is going to go into the farm crew with Birdie, and I guess one can join Hydunia's crew. What's the next thing we need to build? Well, let's take a look at the job assignment list. No major projects ongoing, just the regular sort of daily maintenance tasks. So I think I can consider perhaps starting the survey. The only reason I would build a naturalist office is if I want someone to start surveying mineral nodes. Oh, there we go. Here's one. Here's an example of a potential mineralogy report, which requires a naturalist to survey, which will then reveal the mineral deposits beneath the surface of the land. Now, you can probably guess what a mine would produce were it built here because of the surface deposits. They often correspond, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes you just have these little golden carrots and no surface indication. But right away I can guess we'll probably get hematite, i.e. iron, out of here, and we will probably get malachite, i.e. copper, out of here. So I don't think a naturalist office is a high priority right now. Or even a mine. It's not practical to build a mine before you've built a ceramics workshop. For an office, I don't have the spare manpower to spend devoted to diplomacy, because I need to concentrate on the food and shelter level of the colony for now. Barbershop, we haven't seen a lot of conflict yet, so nobody needs medical attention. So by process of elimination, and since I've already built a carpentry and a kitchen, the next thing I'm going to build is a ceramics workshop, which will let me build brick, which is necessary for sort of second tier buildings, and also will let me start on the metal works. Now the ceramics workshop doesn't produce stuff as often as the kitchen and the carpentry, so it's not as important that it be directly adjacent to the stockpile, but it's still nice if it's close. So I'm going to build my ceramics workshop here. I'm going to build it a little bit bigger than I strictly need to, just so I have room to put in some cots. Right, so here's a door for the ceramics workshop. And the most important functional parts of a ceramics workshop are these babies. The stone ceramics kiln, whereby clay is baked into brick. However, another thing ceramics workshop does need is a ceramics workbench. Let's see where I can put you. I still have to go here. The ceramics workshop the ceramics workbench allows the workshop to produce certain modules. For instance, the stone smelting kiln that the metalworks uses to turn raw ore into ingots must first be produced at this workshop. Having placed these modules, and we can see the tilling was just completed here at the maize farm, so now it's ready to start absorbing labor. Now tilling consumed 20 labor, and I had 3 laborers working on it, and that took less than a day. So I guess we can assume each laborer contributed at least 6 or 7 labor. Something like that. Which means we're still not going to get corn in a reasonable amount of time. But I know from experience we will get corn in about 3 days. Yeah, and if it turns out corn is not forthcoming, I can always assign more laborers there. Alright. Now I know I just assigned 3 cots to the barracks, so I do have... The carpentry is making at least 2 additional cots, which I'm going to fit... I believe I can only fit 1 into the ceramics workshop. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, there are 4 internal modules, which means just to have a neutral condition. So just so the condition doesn't make colonists working there unhappy, it's going to need at least 4 windows, or as many as I can fit in there. And the more the merrier. If you've got lots more windows, then it will actually make people happy to work in there. Oh, and I'm getting a new overseer. Robert Steelpendles, Cursed Architects. What? Like half the colonists in this expedition are doomed. This guy's especially doomed because he's, first of all, he has the doomed trait, and also he wants to taste exotic meat. And what that means is he is more prone to cannibalism. He wants to eat human meat, but he also wouldn't mind trying fishman meat. And I don't know if that counts as cannibalism or not. But there you go. It's I think we're the Cog Empire's equivalent of Australia. Okay, so the superstructure of the ceramics workshop is complete. That's what that notification means, which is handy, but it doesn't tell me when the modules are built, which is when I actually need to assign a worker there. Well, at least the berry harvest is going well. There are so many berries here. Oh, there were a whole bunch of lacquer trees in here, which I did not realize when I area selected this whole thing to forage. So forage will pick up the various kinds of fungus and berries for eating, but it will also designate the lacquer trees for tapping to produce lacquer, which is now why we have buckets of lacquer. I didn't realize. It's very handy having buckets of lacquer because, again, a new thing in revision 49 is a resource named the lacquer plank. So many of the very high level buildings, specifically the chapel and the chemistry works, or the laboratory, I believe, not the chemistry works, require lacquered planks, which they require the basic planks, but then they need further processing to make them fancy planks, and other fancy modules like the super high-end aristocrat bed also required lacquered planks. Basically, they require a lot of production. So it's nice to have lacquer on hand, and hopefully I can get at least 2 or 3 buckets each out of each of these trees before the trees are exhausted. So regarding forageables and exhaustion, they will replenish over time. But each time they replenish, or I should say, yes, each time they're exhausted, that is to say you forage from them, there's, I believe, a 40% chance that they will become irrecoverable. So you pick a berry, you strip a bush of berries, and then there's only a 60% chance it will grow new berries. And that happens every single time. And once it becomes permanently exhausted, that's it. It's useless, it's gone. That applies both to lacquer trees and to the food forageables. Which is why I say I hope I can get a good amount of lacquer out of these trees. But that's up to the whim of probability. So don't want to overload my meager workforce yet. As you can see, some people are angry. And I believe that's my military crew, yep. So these little angry faces mean that my military crew is on strike. Now, I'm not surprised. I had a severe bed shortage early in the colony's life. Hopefully that will get better as I'm going to concentrate on making sure everyone has enough to eat and enough beds for everyone to sleep. So these little frowny faces mean they... Well, on any other crew, and any crew other than the military, the frowny face would mean that they're not going to work. So if they're assigned to a workshop, they won't do their thing. As for the militia, technically it means they are on strike, and practically speaking, I think it means they won't obey my rally commands. However, they will still bumble around the colony, and they will still, because they have guns, their default behavior is to fight back against things that are attacking. So bandits, fish people, beetles, monsters, what have you. So they still kind of function as military. But it could be better, I guess. Now we can see they're on strike because their overseer, he's very angry. Probably because he has not had enough sleep lately. I mean, I only had enough beds for 1/3 of the population up until quite recently. However, I did go to the trouble of building a couple of middle-class beds, and we can see one of Brandgriff's desires was to have a middle-class bed. So that contributed a little bit toward a pleasant disposition. Hopefully, as more people are able to sleep, or as an increasing percentage of the colonists are able to get a good night's sleep, they will be less prone to striking. And we fulfill their other desires, like having enough food to eat, and not being scared, and feeling secure because the military is around, and making friends with other colonists, all of which are accomplished through inter-colonist interactions. So they will talk to each other, and because of the way personalities work, they may get along or they may become enemies. Okay, let's take a look at the maize farm. So labor is already halfway to harvest. So these 3 workers have put in 50 units of labor, and once this gets done, we'll have 16 corn. And you can see the corn is at the sort of knee-height sprout stage, which is stage 3 of 5. 5 being ready for harvest, 1 being seedlings. Each of these stages is reflected graphically, so you can see kind of at a glance how ready the harvest is. As for now, we have a bunch of berries and fungus. And a bunch of lacquer. Great. Oh. And the ceramics workshop is now ready to accept laborers. Although, that said, I should probably start digging up clay. So the ceramics workshop is something to do. Here we go. I'm going to mine this clay. Assign some workers here. Who would make a good ceramics overseer? Hydunia, Mildred, Johan, Rowena. Let's take a look at this. Birdie, I know, is assigned to the farm already. Chauncey, Drusilla. Oh my goodness. She's strange and wants to see a fish person. Robert, he's doomed and morbid. Okay, so no one would be particularly good. I'm not seeing any attributes that would make anyone particularly good at being in charge of the bricks. So I'm just going to assign it to whoever. Hydunia, you could be in charge of the ceramics workshop. And I'll just wait for the autosave to fire off here. Here we go. Hydunia, steel solders, pushover band of bricksmiths. I would like the ceramics workshop to maintain a level of 5 bricks at all times. Probably the next most important thing I'm going to need the ceramics workshop to make for me will be the, here we go, this thing here, which is the stone smelting kiln or oven possibly. But I'll only need that when I build the metalsmith. Now's a good time to look at work crew job filters. Here we go. So if we look at Jesse Allen's crew, for instance, they're assigned to the carpentry. These filters in their gray state indicate that in addition to doing their assigned workshop jobs, this crew is currently not allowed to do any of the other sort of spontaneous jobs like hauling and moving rocks around and chopping trees. But the carpentry is not always busy, and as we can see, the carpentry is actually not actively building anything. So I could use their labor in doing the other little jobs that pop up around town. So I'm going to enable all these other jobs. Let's see. Oh, I've got 2 more immigrants. Okay. I'm going to assign at least one of them to the farm crew. One of them, Mildred. You get your first employee. Right. By default, any crew not assigned to a workshop has all of these filters enabled, which is as it should be. Let's take a look at Hydunia's crew. Hydunia is assigned to the ceramics workshop. Now again, the ceramics workshop isn't constantly producing things, which means they have a lot of free time on their hands. So I'm going to enable all their job filters. Next crew, let's see. This is the kitchen crew. Staffed by Rowena Tomp. Now, in contrast to the previous 2 workshop crews, I'm going to leave all of these job filters disabled because I need the kitchen crew to often produce as much food as possible, and I need them to be local. If they have to walk around a long distance because they're chopping trees or whatever, that can severely impact the food output of the kitchen. So I'm fine leaving all of the job filters disabled. Military. The military's job filters are actually, they're not the same. The military is actually not allowed, it cannot be forced to do any of these other jobs. So I'm fine with the way this is. Although one thing I do with all my military crews is that I enable hunting jobs. Because they have guns. I still need more space for beds, now that I think about it. I have 20 immigrants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and only 8 beds. 9 beds. Okay. Let's see what we should build next. I suppose I could start at the metalsmith. I think not, though. I think... basically what I'm thinking is I'd like more guns in the colony. I mean, I've only got the 1 pistol, so we're kind of in trouble if we get attacked. And to make guns, I'm going to need a functioning metalworks. So I guess that's what I'll build. Alright. Or I can at least start on the metalworks. Now the metalworks, no, I will not yet start on the metalworks, but the metalworks is a facility that makes heavy use of the stockpile. It's constantly, because many of the things it builds require multiple inputs, all of which have to come from storage, and all the things they produce will go to the stockpile when completed. There's a lot of traffic, so if I can minimize the distance workers in the metalworks have to walk, that reduces basically the overhead in terms of hauling overhead. Basically, they have more time to work and less time grabbing stuff. So I'd like to put it on this third empty edge of my stockpile, but first, to build anything there, I'm going to have to flatten out this ground. Again, these red hash marks mean the ground is bumpy and not suitable for building. So let's flatten you out. Alright, who is... Oh, my military is still on strike. Fortunately, there's nothing for them to do. In the meantime, let's decorate the interior of the kitchen. What kind of modules can I put in there? Well, certainly the workbench and the spice rack will enable the kitchen to produce more things. A wider variety of things. So let's say spice rack will go there. Workbench will go here. Now, of course, these are modules that must be constructed, in this case in the carpentry, so I'll need to queue them up. Spice rack, workbench. So with the basic stone ovens, the kitchen is only able to produce these two things. This, which is the bushel of sausages, requires a spice rack, and some of these, for instance, require a workbench. And specifically in the case of these jars, they also require glass jars, which are made at a ceramics workshop with sand, which means if I want to produce those berry preserves, I'm going to need to find a source of sand. That's something for my workers to do while I wait for these other workers to clear the land. What is going on here? Oh no! Huh. My workers were dumb. So what's happening here is that there's this weird red berm here of raised land, and I was hoping they would flatten it down to this white level, but instead they're raising up the white level to match this flat area on top. Hopefully the resulting area will be big enough for me to build a metalsmith there. Oh my goodness. Why are we raising a giant hill on the edge of town? Still got 2 cots in storage, which is kind of weird because I thought I'd placed all of... well, waste not, want not again. Yes, waste not, want not. I guess I will place a bed in the kitchen. Here? Sure. Man, that is terribly inconvenient. I guess I can fit a metalworks in there. It's not ideal. I blame you, Robert Steele Pendle. I guess what's happening is the game was confused as to, when I said level it, the game understands that I want it flat, but doesn't understand which area I want the flat part to correspond to. Alright, you done flattening yet? Nope. Oh, that is so ugly. Oh well. Be a story for our grandchildren, I guess. We'll call this hill like Stupid Robert Hill, because Robert Steele Pendle couldn't read a surveyor's map. Okay, I guess it's flat enough, so we can start on our metalworks. Okay, so here we go, metalworks. Because some of the modules for the metalworks protrude at the sides, and I need to fit them in this weird rectangular area. I'm going to have to make this building kind of weird and skinny. I guess this will have to do. Alright. So construction of the metalworks, as we can see, requires brick, stone, and timber, or planks. I will deal with that in a second. First, let's make sure there's a door. Okay, so now as you can see, I do have bricks in storage, so they'll be ready to go. But if I had none, I have the ceramics workshop up and ready to produce brick for construction. Now I could have sworn I told this crew to... Oh, there we go. Okay. So yes, I've set a minimum level of brick for the ceramics workshop to maintain, which is fine. And as we can see here, I have brick in storage, and because we've met the minimum level, now the ceramics workers have nothing to do, which is when they start looking for things outside of their workshop, jobs originating outside of their workshop, which is when it becomes relevant to enable the certain job filters. Here we have a notification that 6 bandits have set up a new camp somewhere. And the game is asking me how I want to deal with them. So we have the option of being immediately hostile to them, shoot them on sight, or tolerate them, i.e. don't try to maintain peaceful relations so long as they don't steal from us. I'm just going to say shoot them on sight, which, now that I think about it, might not have been the wisest course because we only have one pistol. Well, I guess we'll see how that works out. So, time to put modules into the metalworks. So, the most important modules to start with in the metalworks are, of course, the smelting crucible, by which we turn raw ore into usable ingots. The next thing we'll build after those get built will be the smithing forge, which is a module that actually has to be constructed in the metalworks. So I can't do that yet, so I'm not going to bother placing that. But I can assign a workbench. So we'll put you right here. Now, workbench has to be constructed in the carpentry. So again, I'm going to queue up another workbench. And the 2 stone smelting crucibles must be constructed at the ceramics workshop, which my ceramics workshop cannot yet produce because producing a kiln requires a ceramics workbench, which I've assigned. So why is there no ceramics workbench here? Because I did not construct one at the carpentry. So hit another production snag. So I'm going to queue up a ceramics workbench. So if you didn't catch all that, this is what's happening. I want to build a metalworks with a functioning crucible. The crucible must be constructed here at the ceramics workbench. The ceramics workbench builds them out of stone, but needs a the workshop needs a workbench to build them, and the workbench itself must be built at the carpentry. So these are all one-time things. I wouldn't really call it a production chain, but there's like a web of dependencies. Let's take a look at our resources just to make sure we have enough to build everything, and we've hit another snag. I've run completely out of timber. So all this wooden furniture I'm building, we're going to run out of planks very soon. So I'm going to designate more trees for chopping. And, yep, and now we just sit back and let the colonists do their thing. Now, the metalworks construction. I believe we have enough planks in storage, and we will shortly be out of stone. So I should also queue more stone for quarrying. This is nice and close. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Hit the forge button instead of the mine surface nodes button. So at a glance, we can... Oh, someone else is on strike. But the good news is my military is no longer on strike. The crews that are actively doing things are highlighted in gold here, and the ones that are not doing things are this dimmer manila color. Drusilla, again, she's very angry because... I'm not sure. Oh, her sleep was disturbed. I'm not quite sure how. And also, she felt tired. So again, sleep and bed related problems. Hopefully, as I get more places to put beds, more people will have beds to sleep in. Okay, so in the interest of keeping these episodes in readily digestible chunks, I'm going to cut this episode off here. Again, things are going pretty well in the colony. That might not last, though, because, again, our military strength is very low. Hopefully the metal works will get up and running soon enough that I can start producing pistols. And in the meantime, you can see how my oversight, how I forgot about the workbench, and a step backwards from that, I forgot about having enough wood. So all of these little things are contributing to the inefficiencies in the colony. If I was a computer, I guess maybe I would have remembered all of those things. But that's just the way the colony rolls. Oh, and our corn harvest is coming in. Oh, they're just transitioning from stage 4 to stage 5. So we can see the corn has taken about 3 days from planting to, well, probably the corn will be ready to harvest either at the end of this day or the beginning of the next day. And we have 2 more workers. So altogether the corn's taken about 3 or 4 days. Where are the new workers going to go? Where do we need workers? I guess we don't need more carpenters or ceramics workers, or maybe one more in the kitchen staff. One more in the military couldn't hurt. There we go. Alright. And that's it for this episode, I guess. So, the game is Clockwork Empires. It's currently in development by Gaslamp Games. We've just seen the release of Alpha 49 and the hotfix, which brings it up to 49A. My name is Alfred. This has been episode 3 of my monthly look at the stable branch release of this game. Yeah, I'm going to continue on. Again, if you want to see your name included as one of the overseers, just leave a comment or something. I'll put you in wherever. We have plenty of crazy overseers for viewers to choose from this time. Otherwise, well, thanks for joining me. I will see you next episode.